Hey, what's up, guys? Hey, thanks for tuning in again. This is Josh Rangel and Luke Rangel.
What's up, guys?
PK unmiked. Luke, explain to him what PK stands for.
PK stands for pastor's kid. Since we both grew up and our father's a pastor, that is what the PK stands for.
Yes. And sometimes, I don't know, did you ever get this question, Luke? I got it all the time. When they asked you, so when they found out that my dad was a pastor, they would say, so are you the good pastor's kid or the bad pastor kid?
All time. Well, actually, I think they just automatically assumed the bad one because most pastor kids don't really grow up too well.
So which one were you, though?
I have a mixture of both, I'd say.
I'm sure we'll get into that a little bit later today. You have a good Christmas, bro?
I did. I had a wonderful Christmas. It was really fun since our daughter just turned 1, so you could actually see her excitement now. Well, last year she just slept through the whole thing. So this year she doesn't really understand the concept yet, but when she opens a present, you could just see her smile, and she loves hugging things. So we got a bunch of stuffed animals and she just hugged them all day, and it was a lot of fun.
That's cool. I know ours is, so we have a 5-year-old boy and a 3-year-old boy. It was fun watching them actually sprint down the hallway when they realized it was Christmas morning, and watching them tear through presents and stuff. And then we also have a girl that's 16 months old, and she she was opening up presents, but she didn't care too much for them. We got chaotic because my wife has 3 sisters, right? So Bess has 3 sisters, and all of them have 3 kids, and 2 of them have husbands. And so it was just like chaos in our house with 12 kids running around, but they're amazing cooks, so I love to eat.
That's fun. It's probably the opposite of mine. We had about 4 people all Christmas.
Yeah.
But I like it. I got to sleep in a lot.
Yeah, that's cool. Well, man, so what we're going to be doing today is last week we kind of opened up. Luke and I were trying to figure out this podcast thing. People have been saying, hey, try this podcast. You guys work well together. Me and Luke grew up pretty close together. We have another brother that's between both of us, and I would protect Luke from him, and then we would team up against him. And it was just a lot of fun growing up with 3 boys in the household. And then I ended up leaving to go to Texas in 2001, and Luke stayed back in California. And we talk a lot. We work a business together a little bit, and he has his own thing going on. But bottom line is, we are 2 brothers who typically took 2 different paths to where we're at today with one mission. And so last week was just kind of sharing our stories, trying to figure out how this thing's going to work. And this week, what we're going to do is just kind of dig into Luke. We want you guys to understand who we are. That we're no different than anybody else out there. We're just 2 average guys who are pushing ourselves to grow ourselves and working harder on ourselves. I'm not afraid to say it, an average male, like the other average typical dad, right? And I think both of us have a passion not to be that dad that comes home from work and sits on the couch and ignores our wives or our kids. We do have a passion to impact lives in the business that we're doing it. And it's just been an incredible journey. And so throughout this podcast, we want you guys to get to know who we are. We want you guys to send us messages and questions. Not that we'll have all the answers. We'll definitely look into the answers, but we want to share from our hearts, because I think that's some of the most impactful lessons you can give anybody is when you share from experience. And so I have the great privilege to interview Mr. Rangel, Luke Rangel. You nervous?
I'm a little bit nervous.
And so this is going to be cool. Yeah. So we'll see. We'll see where this goes and it takes us. We have a small outline, but like I said, when you're speaking from the heart and you follow your passions, things just come out naturally. And so, I don't know, Luke, let's just start from the beginning, dude. Right?
All right.
You birthed out of a mom.
I came out with a 6-pack.
You came out with a 6-pack. Yeah. Cool. That's cool. Well, I guess what's the earliest memory you have of just whatever?
I don't know about an earliest memory, but I don't know. I just remember growing up, and I was just especially in the early years, I was the stereotypical, on the good side, of a pastor's kid. I mean, I was shy, I was disciplined, never did anything wrong. But I don't know, growing up, like you said earlier, the biggest thing I remember is picking on our middle brother. I'll run over, hit him, and then run to you to protect me. um, just playing games like that. I remember playing American Gladiators in our living room. That was a lot of fun. Just rolled up some socks and threw them at each other as we dodged behind couches.
Yeah, the good old days. American Gladiators. Always wanted to get on the kids show for that. I would have dominated.
Yeah, we'll see. But other than that, nothing. There's no big memory growing up. Just remember just going to school, coming home, had to do our homework right when we got home, show the parents.
Now, when you started, you were in the same school district, though, from like kindergarten all the way through high school, right?
In kindergarten, I forget where we lived, but it was that private school that you were at for a bit. And then from first grade, since first grade on, I was in the same school district.
See, I think it's going to be fascinating. So, like, when I ask questions, I'm probably going to be asking a lot of questions, and then next week it'll be fun to talk about it because I was in like 4 different schools or 5 different schools before we settled down in the school district you grew up in.
Right.
So it's funny. Huh. So, like, take it back to early years of school. Like, you always seemed like a laid-back kid that didn't have a care in the world to me, like all the way through. I left.
It's probably how it looked is exactly how I am most part. I mean, I remember you guys calling me homeless probably up until 5th grade because I just woke up, had whatever I had on, never combed my hair, and just went to school. I think a few times I had my shorts on backwards. But, yeah, I don't know. I just never – I guess that's one thing I realized is I just never really cared what people thought of me. And just growing up, yeah, I mean, I remember going to the same school or in first grade. I remember first day of school, get on the playground. And I went up to the first boy I saw and asked him if he wanted to be my friend. And we were probably best friends for about 5 years.
Really? So you had like a relationship status with your first friend. Will you be my best friend?
That's how it was. He said, yeah, and we went down the slide together.
Do you remember, so like I remember like growing up sports, you seemed to get more athletic as you got older. I mean, shoot, you were the center for your high school team your senior year. And now I don't think that's the position you would be playing.
No, yeah, absolutely. I remember, so that's, when it comes to sports, I remember I didn't want to do sports at all. Mom and Dad actually forced me to do baseball. And I think I wasn't, the first year was like when I was 9 years old. Forced me to do baseball, and they're just like, if you don't like it, you don't have to do it again. But of course, I absolutely loved it. And then, yeah, I played baseball pretty much up until high school when I realized I sucked. And then I went to football.
Do you remember, so like one of the memories of me that I was like so proud of you, like you were awful in baseball, and I don't know how old you were, but they stuck you in left field. Like that's where they stick like all the people that like just to hope the ball doesn't get hit to them.
Yeah,
and you guys were, and you guys were in the playoffs, and there was 2 outs, and the other team was rallying, and there might have been bases loaded or something, and the guy hits a fly ball to left field. You know what I'm talking about?
Yeah, I know exactly what you're talking about.
Do you remember this moment?
Yeah, I remember. I was lucky because I did not have to take one step. The ball was hit right to me. But I believe it was either bases load. I know the scoring run was at least on second. And pretty much if I dropped the ball, we lost. And if we caught it, I won. And, of course, I was just the hero.
Did you, like, were you nervous when that ball? So, like, I'm sitting in the stands, and the ball's hit to you. And literally, I'm sitting by Mom. And we both, like, she grabs my arm, like out of nervousness, like, and my first thought was like, oh, like my heart as your older brother was like, oh God, please let it catch. Don't let him miss it and lose the game. And then you caught the ball and it was like tears of joy. It's like, it's my brother.
Oh, yeah, I don't know. I remember it being hit to me. I can't remember. I think I remember feeling nervous. But yeah, I don't know. I just remember I caught it and then like everyone ran up to me. I was like, yeah.
That's a funny thing I remember about too. I'm like, Luke, you just won the game, and you're like,
Yeah.
That's funny. And so then you get to high school. When do you start playing football?
Well, I first started playing football, I think it was 7th or 8th grade. I tried tackle football.
I remember that too.
Yeah, but I ended up quitting after a month for whatever. I remember, so I grew up, for those that don't know, I grew up not overweight, but I was definitely not in shape. I mean, we had fast food a lot, chubby.
You're breaking up a little bit there, buddy. See if you come back. There we go.
There we go. Can you hear me?
Yeah, you're good.
What was the last thing you heard?
You're chubby.
Yeah.
Fast food a lot. You used to have donuts for breakfast every morning or something. I remember that.
Yeah, donuts were amazing. And then I remember during warm-ups, I was just dying during warm-ups. And I remember being so happy. It was probably about 2 weeks into the football, just practice, not even a season yet. And we did our warm-up lap, and I didn't come back huffing and puffing, and I was so excited about that.
God, it's so funny. I look at you now. I barely remember you being that fat and out of shape.
But I don't know. It was just, looking back, it was a mindset. But at the time, the reason why I quit was, of course, I was on the heavier side. So I was like for me, I feel like I had to go into a higher group than what I should have been in. And I was playing with all these kids that have been playing for 4 or 5 years, just rocking it. And I was just getting crushed every practice. So then I kind of hurt my arm a little bit. So that was my reason for quitting. Even though it's probably just like a bruise.
And then you started playing again in high school. Did you start right away in your freshman year?
Yeah, started freshman year. Started out as a lineman. And yeah, it was just a lot different. My body was a little bit more mature. I had a lot more friends with me. That was probably the big thing. And I had 2 older all-star brothers, so I couldn't quit anymore.
Did you feel pressure from that? Always I
don't know if I felt pressure. No, I wouldn't say I ever felt pressure.
From the person that doesn't care.
Yeah. But I definitely know a lot of people knew me because of you guys, and I don't know if they looked at me different or what, but I never felt like, I hear a lot of people how they feel extreme pressure about it or like it changes their life, but no, I never felt that.
Yeah, cool.
Yeah. And then, just played football all 4 years.
What was your high school experience like? So, what I'm trying to do is walk people through so they understand Luke, where he was at in high school and then after high school, and then you're 100% different person today than you were back then. How old are you?
I'm 30 years old right now.
Okay, so just give people a time for where you're at right now. So take us back to where you were.
Yeah, so high school years, freshman, sophomore. So I was going in the freshman year. I still had my what I think was baby weight. I don't know, baby weight with some extra weight. But freshman, sophomore year, I was still the shy kid. I remember being self-conscious about my weight because I always kind of pulled down my shirt a little bit because it kind of rides up with your stomach. Or just every time I sit down, I just see these rolls. It probably didn't help or did help that I hung out. All my friends were just athletic, baseball players, thin. So I always kind of felt like the bigger guy, which is a good thing now, but back then. And then when it came to school, I was an excellent student. I remember my first semester of high school, I got all A's and 1 B, and I was so mad about the B. And it's funny how it changed because I know throughout high school, every single semester, my GPA just got a little bit lower each semester. But I always stayed above a 3.0 in high school. So, I did my work. So one thing I've always did was I did my homework. I had the work ethic. Sometimes I just laid off a little bit more, just didn't study as much as I need to for the test. But I'd say the biggest thing that I remember is just that we were extremely sheltered growing up. At least I was. I remember it was either freshman or sophomore year of high school. One of my friends was inviting me to a party, and he's like, all these people are going to be there. I didn't go at all, but in my mind, I was just like, why are so many people going to this birthday party or things like that? Like, I didn't know what a party was. Probably to like junior or senior year. I was like, oh, that's what he meant. But parties to me were just like birthday parties. I don't know. They had sleepovers and stuff like that.
So funny to me.
And then, yeah, so that was kind of the beginning of high school. It was really the same as my elementary and middle school days. Shy, good student, discipline, did every single thing our parents told us to do. It never really went off course.
Yeah, it's funny you mentioned like what's going through my head is when you said you didn't know what parties were. I'm like, I did, so I was a little bit different. But I remember when you got a speeding ticket for going like 100 miles an hour on the freeway or something. And I remember like, oh my gosh, is he a rebel? What's he doing? Is he not thinking? And I'm thinking to myself, I bet he didn't know the speed limit was not 100 miles an hour. You probably thinking you can go as fast as you want and didn't think somebody got pulled over on them.
Yeah. And then I'd say junior year was kind of the year I started getting more confident. Started liking girls, which I don't know. What is that? 16 years old. Sad thinking about it.
That's when I thank God every night. It's like, oh, he does like girls.
Yeah, I think there might have been a few questions from a few people. But that's really, I never lost weight, but I just got taller and all my weight just kind of thinned out. I started really realizing my athletic ability, was doing really well. Unfortunately, I don't know, I had a lot of fun playing center. I mean, I was a 180-pound center starting on a varsity team. Luckily, I had big 250, 300-pound guards next to me. But I just remember the coaches, they always apologizing to me because all of our bigger guys, they were either too dumb to play center or they're just too slow. So, I mean, it was fun with the other guys, and I switched off on defense and stuff, but it's definitely interesting being a smaller center.
So now, graduating high school, did you have goals coming out of like, did you want to go to college?
Yeah, I mean, I think I wanted to go to college. I just never, I think when I started college, I didn't have a plan. At least, I mean, back then I knew my mindset back then growing up, I needed to go to college to make sure I get a good job, pretty much. And that's just coming from what society has told us our whole lives. And plus, we grew up in probably the stereotypical middle income lifestyle, or the only way to earn a living is to work 8 hours a day and come home, and that's it. So I knew I had to go to college. So right out of high school, I applied to one school, got in. It was Cal Poly. Right off the bat, which was probably the worst thing for me to do. Because as I mentioned earlier, I mean, each semester of high school, my GPA kept getting lower and lower. And then starting in college, I mean, I just had no discipline left at that point. And I think with high school, it was easy because you had a set schedule every single day. Our parents knew exactly what we're doing, what we're up to. And then come college, when I actually have choices, it's probably the first time I felt like I had choices, I didn't make the right ones.
What do you mean?
Well, I mean, just simple stuff like not wanting to go to class. Like me and my buddies will go around, we'll have the same class, and then we're like, you want to go play Madden instead? So we'll go home and play some video games. Or just not studying for tests or doing the homework or anything like that. I remember, so Cal Poly, it was a quarter system. I think my first GPA was either a 0.9 or 0.09. And it
That's
was
unbelievable to me. Like, you can get that by just showing up for class.
Oh, I didn't do that. But yeah, it was funny. I remember because I had to take like the beginning classes to get into the regular classes. So my first English class was just like about grammar and things like that. And I think growing up, one thing I've always realized and what I'm good at is just kind of getting away with things. Might be because I'm the youngest. Or I just always come off, which I am, but like as the nice guy or as a trustworthy person. So I remember it was the final for our English class, we had to write an essay on this book. I think I had like a C minus in the class, so I had to pass this to pass the class. And I didn't read the book at all, didn't do anything. And then when it came time to write the essay, I wrote nothing about the book. I remember writing the teacher just random stuff like, I hope all you care about on this paper is the grammar and the punctuation. I was like, I'm sorry I did not read the book, but if you want me to, I'll come mow your lawn. Like things like that. But I made sure the grammar and everything was perfect, and I actually got a higher grade than my friend that was in the class. Yeah, that was pretty awesome. And that was the one class I passed that whole quarter.
That's unbelievable.
But yeah, I always feel like I've been good at looking outside the box, or I guess, or know how to take the right shortcuts when to take them. That, which ends up biting you in the end, but for the quick results, it works.
Yeah, it does. Man, we should write that down. I think it's a topic for both of us. Like, I think same way, we'll get into this next week and ask that question, but I'm right there with you. I understand what you mean when you say it was easy to look the part, but and get away with it. But then when life smacks you, you can't fake life out type deal, you know?
Yeah.
So when did it all switch for you then, right? So you dropped out of college, right?
Yeah, so from Cal Poly, I was there for 2 quarters, which is 1 semester. And then from there, I went to Citrus. And from there, I remember this was probably the time I started giving up on school because there was another English class. It was a reading class. And I remember I gave it like 100% effort in this class, at least for me, what 100% effort was at the time. And I remember getting a D still. And I was like, what the heck? I'm actually trying and it didn't work. So I was like, all right, screw this. So then from Citrus, I went to Mount Sac. And I think at this time I'm like 23. So I'm about, I don't know, what is that? 5 years in the college with about 30 credits. So I go to Mount Sac because I'm going to be a firefighter. That's what everyone's telling me I'd be good at. I'm a nice person. I work out. I like helping people. I look the part to be a firefighter. So I go to firefighter, just taking the core classes. And there's 6 classes. And for the most committed person, you could probably knock them out in 1 year. For me, it took 2 years. I passed all of them. But then that's when I kind of decided, I was like, if I was really serious about being a firefighter, this would have been done with already. But it's just taken a long time. And then that's when I became a trainer and my life kind of started shifting gears. But it took a long time through that.
You know, that's an interesting point. Like, what point do you run into people now, like in your career, that like they know they're not where they should be, but they continue to pursue that path anyways?
Oh, absolutely.
Like, what happens to those people?
They're just unhappy with, I mean, because we tend to spend probably 50 to 60, if not more % of our lives at work. So if you're not happy with what you're doing, that relates to every part of your life. That's like you were saying earlier, that's the husbands or the wives that come home angry and take it out on their kids. Or that's the overweight person that they're so tired from work, they don't make it to the gym. or they don't want to eat healthy.
Do you think there's something like the way you're raised, or, I mean, I think I relate with you in that aspect. Like, what in it you knew is just, hey, if I was serious about this, I would have passed sooner. So it's probably not what I'm passionate about. I'm going to pursue a passion.
Mm-hmm. I really don't know, because I don't feel when we grew up that we were really taught to pursue passions too much. So I can't really pinpoint where I would even think that way.
Like, I think it's interesting because I don't think our parents also, they didn't like force us to go to college, and they didn't force us to say, this is what you need to do. This is the next step. They really, I think, gave us some freedom and were very supportive in what we did.
Yeah, absolutely.
And so I think we had the freedom and to say, you know what, this isn't for me. I'm going to try this route.
Yeah. Yeah. No, absolutely. That's the one thing I remember, like when I was doing terrible at Cal Poly, I remember my parents, of course I could see the little bit of disappointment, but they never got mad at me for it. They're just trying to help me through it.
Yeah.
And then, yeah, they're really supportive of every part of my journey.
I wonder, like, it got me thinking if that has to do with, I remember like just our parents growing up and things they've gone through and moving and churches, that I was always like, you know what, God has a will. We got to trust for that as long as we're doing the right things. And it sounds like you have an ability in your life to like just trust your heart, right?
Yeah.
And so you follow what's on your heart given, and it's not on my heart, so I'm not going that direction. This is on my heart. I'm going to pursue it, right? And there's a lot of stumbles and falls along the way and wrong turns. We'll always kind of end up where we need to be. Huh.
Yeah. Yeah.
So you get into personal training.
Yes.
And this is what I remember about it. All of a sudden, like, I remember you going through fire school, and I feel like there's something other things in there that was like, Luke, you're not like applying yourself. What are you doing? Hurry up. And all of a sudden personal training came along and you became an expert like overnight. It was like, what are you doing? He was like, I don't know. It was like 11 o'clock at night. He's like, so me and Luke used to play, I don't know, one of those Call of Duty games or something online, like all the time. You remember that?
I don't remember playing with you.
Yeah, we would. So I would play online, and then we would hook up once in a while and play. We started doing that a little bit.
Oh, I do remember that.
And then all of a sudden, it was like, hey, I can't play right now. I got to study. I'm like, huh?
No, yeah, I remember that. So I know. So that's when I knew. I didn't know if training was going to be my route my entire life. I don't think it is going to be right now. It's just kind of a way for me to meet new people. And for me, we'll talk about later, but I'm using that as a way to show God's love and things like that through the fitness aspect. But I remember the moment I got the textbook, I couldn't put it down. I started reading. I just absolutely loved everything I was reading. And that has never happened to me before. And it just kind of dawned on me as I was doing that. I was like, oh, is this how you pass college? You read the textbooks? It's like, it's so much easier. There's a lot of knowledge in here. But yeah, that's when I absolutely knew it was the right path for me, because I just could not put the book down. I was eager to wake up and learn.
So you started doing your certification. I know you knocked that out pretty quickly, and you passed on your first time, and most people take 2 or 3 times on the certification you got. And then walk us through that. So now you're your own trainer.
Yeah, so I became a trainer. It took me about 3 months to pass everything. At the time, I was working at a country club being a server, and the moment I got certified, I just started applying for gyms. And luckily, right away, I got hired. It was pretty neat. It was in a big group as a group interview. There's at least 20 of us in there, and they chose 2 of us, and I was one of them. But it was a neat interview because they didn't ask anything about training, which was great for them. And I think this is what most successful businesses do. They didn't ask anything about training. It was all about your personality. And they just asked personality questions because they figured when it comes to training, you could be the smartest trainer in the world, be book smart, but if you can't talk to a person, then you're not going to sell any kind of training. And they just figured we'll find the personalities and we'll teach them training. So out of that, luckily, I was hired for theirs, a big corporate gym. And I loved it the first 3 months. And I hated it the next 3 months. And the reason for that was, of course, I was doing what I loved. I was doing, I was training, I was helping people, doing everything. Fortunately and unfortunately about this typical corporate gym is they were just all about sales, which sales is extremely important. Every single job, everything you do in life is sales. But they just took it to an extreme where every single day I felt like my job was on the line if I didn't sell enough. I knew it wasn't the right job for me when I looked as new members walked in. I just saw them as potential money instead of as actual people trying to help. And the other part of it, which I knew the gym setting wasn't my long-term deal, because I remember looking at the managers, looking at the fitness manager, the general manager of the gym, and they were there before the sun came up and they were there when the sun went down. And they were angry all the time. And again, I don't know where it comes from because most people don't see that and they try to still promote themselves. But I just remember thinking, I do not want to do this the rest of my life. This is not the career path I want to keep going. So that was the experience with my first gym. I was there for about 9 months. And I say the good thing about being in an environment like that is it did teach me how to sell. It taught me how to get out of my comfort zone. And it, more importantly, not sell training, but it teaches you how to sell yourself, which is huge for anything. I mean, if someone's listening to this and they're trying to get married, you have to learn how to sell yourself to the significant other.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So then you went from corporate America. I know you jumped around a few gyms, things of that nature, struggling with money as a personal trainer, had some good jobs. You're always calling me, hey, this gym's looking at me for a management role. I have this thing going on. What do you think about this? And then quickly walk us through that and then put us where you're at right now and how that developed.
Yeah. So I was going from gym to gym, and I know this is huge as personal trainers, but I know it's also big in a lot of other fields where, a lot of trainers go from gym to gym thinking it's going to be better somewhere else because of either what their friends say or what the manager sweet talks them into thinking. But every single gym was the exact same. You start off good, you're happy with it. 6 months later, you're unhappy with it. And I forgot what book I was reading, but that's actually 6 months is a time frame where people start looking for new jobs. And it's just insane. If you just look on your social media, someone will post, just got a new job, I'm so excited. 3 to 6 months later, they're complaining about the same job.
Yeah.
So I went from gym to gym to gym, and then I joined Herbalife under you, which was my first experience of being an entrepreneur, learning different business skills, things I need to actually grow a business. And then for a while I was still single, I was able to do Herbalife full time. So, and that was my first experience as not having a boss and kind of what that feels like and having to be disciplined on yourself and setting your own schedule and those type of things. And then as time went on, I was getting married, so I needed to make a little bit more money than I was making at Herbalife at the time. So that's when I went to another corporate gym that was very structured and extremely corporate. And at the time, so as trainers, most trainers make anywhere from, like, if you're a great trainer, you're probably making about $5,000 a month at the highest end. I joined a high-end gym where it's about $160 a membership, and the high-end trainers here could make over six figures. So it was definitely a better environment, something I wanted to grow in. But then at the same time, it was just way too corporate for me. Like, they wouldn't put up Christmas trees at Christmas because people would get mad at it, or they're afraid of what people will say because they want to be so politically correct all the time. And I knew for me that just the corporate arena wasn't where I needed to be. It just wasn't where I felt fulfilled, I would say. And then from there, quickly, luckily, we moved about 40 back in town. So this was when I lived near the beach during our first year of marriage. We moved back into town where I live now. So it was too far to drive there. Somehow the gym I worked at before found out I moved back, and they asked me to be a fitness manager. So of course I agreed, and same thing happened. Loved it for 3 to 6 months, hated it after. And we're just struggling. We just was not making enough. It's a small gym. And one big thing happens in the fitness industry, which may happen other places, I'm not sure, but you keep hearing promises. Like, they initially hired me to take over another gym, to be a general manager of a gym. And they kept telling me that for a year, but there was no signs of getting any closer. So I just had to start doing my own thing. And
so you started personal training where you're currently at, basically out of need and necessity.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. So then just 2017 in January, exactly 1 year from today, it was probably the lowest time. So I was turning 30 in a month. We were making probably anywhere from $2,500. The highest was $4,000 a month. And our bills were around $4,500 a month. So we're struggling. We had a 3-month-old at this time, and we're living with the in-laws, which I absolutely love the in-laws, but it's not a place you want to live. Yeah.
Like, and?
So this was definitely the lowest time. It was crazy because I remember I applied to so many jobs, and this was as I was a fitness manager still. Applied to so many different gyms, thinking it's going to be better, always trying to get more out of it. And then I applied to, I think I even told you about this job, where it's like I'd be like cleaning windows or something like that.
Yeah, I do remember that.
Or put things together. And I remember going to this job, and it was I forgot what the initial job they came to interview me for, but they told me I was overqualified for it. And I was just kept thinking, I was like, I'm a college dropout. I can't even pay my bills. How am I overqualified for this? Like, I don't care if I'm overqualified. Just give me a job. And then about 2 weeks go by, and they call me back for a higher position. So I go into interview all excited. I'm like, this is definitely a for sure thing. I mean, they're calling me back for a better position. And again, same exact thing. They talked about it. This time it was not only it was the owner, but like the guy who started the company was in there. And again, they just didn't hire me because they said I was overqualified. And the only reason I think that I've never, ever since at 26, when I started the entrepreneurship, I was always into personal development. So I could tell I thought differently than most people. I talked a little bit differently than most people. And they just wouldn't hire me. And we were so bummed at this time and it's crazy to think, because the job would have only paid me $30,000 a year. And like, I mean, to us at that time, which could be a lot to many people, but that was so much money to us. And we're like, man, if we could just get this, we're going to be okay. We could move out. I mean, I think would be at the end of each month, it would be coming down to every single dollar. But luckily they didn't hire me. And this was the time, I mean, the biggest time when we seek God's guidance or anything is unfortunately just always when we're at our lowest points. So this was the biggest turning point of my life, and probably a big turning point a lot of people don't realize. So up until I was 30 years old, I always did my own thing, and then I asked God for help. And it just never worked out the way I wanted to. And this time I said, I'm not making any plans. All I'm going to do is pray. It's like, God, just show me what I need to do. Show me where to go. How can I not only provide for my family, but share your name in the process of it, where I could help your kingdom grow. And constantly, I have a buddy who owns a private studio here that I've tried multiple times in the past, and it never took off for me. But I just kept getting this gut feeling where I need to go back there and actually give it 100% effort and try to grow it. And one of the best quotes I've read the other day was, when we pray to God, that's us talking to God. When God talks to us, that's our gut feeling. So when we, or our instincts, or however you want to say it. So I just kept getting this instinct. I was like, God's pushed me there. I mean, I was scared, but I just got to do it. So I put in 100% effort into this gym, promoted like crazy every single day. And in February, I believe I have it written down, but in February I had 2 clients. I was making about $400 a month on this private studio. And then 4 months later, I had over 50 clients making 6 figures. So it was just absolutely insane what happens when you just listen to God.
Yeah, that's cool, man. I love that quote because, it's one thing I tell my team and I tell people is like, you have to trust your gut. Like your gut is your heart speaking to you, and you got to be in tune to that. So it's cool to hear you just say that right now. That's like, but here's the other key point that I took away was so many people want to pray, but then they sit on their bed and wait, right? Yeah. And here you are praying, taking action, following your heart, feeling your gut. And even like up to this point, it's you continually taking action, seeking answers, right? Right. And so there was a lot of failure. And so they look at Luke right now, the personal trainer, Instagram sensation, rocking his body, helping his clients. But what they don't see is the years and years of trial and error before, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Probably about 5 years of failure, but growth every single year.
Yeah, that's cool. That's cool. Yeah. Also, like I love the fact that it sounded like you went, and this is one thing that I think it's important for people to hear because so many people want to chase the money. What's the next job that pays me more? What's the next job that pays this? And it's everybody, no matter what income level they're at. Like people walk into my club and they're making tons of money, but they're on call 24 hours a day. And they're like, it's good. I guess it pays the bills. I'm like, what a way to live your life. Yeah. Right. And so once it goes from chasing money to chasing your heart and your passion and listening to that gut feelings, I think things start to change. And by no means I'm advocating quit your jobs, right? But I think there's definitely things out there you can do if you really want it bad enough. Do things around your current job to start chasing things that fulfills your heart. And it may not make money, but if your heart's being fulfilled, I think you'll feel richer than you did with any paycheck you receive. So absolutely. That's cool, man. So like what things, I guess, I'll just ask it this way. Were there like insecurities that you think held you back that you've grown from that now you're like, you know what, those were just like lessons? Or I guess what's the biggest growth Luke Rangel has had in the last 6 years?
Good question. I would just say the way I live my life is the biggest growth. And there's definitely still insecurities that I face today. I think everybody does, that you need to outgrow or work on, which I'll talk about mine in a bit, but just the way I live my life. So, I mean, you constantly hear me talk about personal development. If you follow this podcast, it's going to be a consistent theme. But I mean, I seem like I have it all together now, but if you met me when I was 22 years old, some crazy stories. So, I mean, I drank literally every single day. If I even wrote out a planner, it would look like Margarita Mondays, Taco Tuesdays, Wine on Wednesdays, Thirsty Thursdays, Friday and Saturday we just looked for the party, and then Fun Day Sunday. I literally did that probably for 4 years. I remember there was one time, me and my roommate at the time, we just had to like show ourselves that we weren't alcoholics. So we didn't drink for a week, and we're fine with it. And then we opened up, I think it was just some really cheap college beer. And it was like the best tasting thing ever after that. But I mean, it was all about just drinking and girls from probably age 20 to 25. I remember I actually got fired I worked at a Christian daycare.
I didn't know this.
I don't think mom and dad even know this either.
Now they do.
So when I was at the beach, I got an MIP, which is a minor in possession of just alcohol. And somehow the head guy of Sunrise, he got an email about it. And then so they just had to fire me from it for being a Christian school, which luckily at this time, I mean, I already had another job and I was just there part-time, but it was just those crazy things. Another crazy time is, I don't know if they know, I think mom might have an idea, but I spent the night in jail one night. It was just, I mean, we're just in Fullerton partying, and it was the stupidest thing ever. So I was with one friend. He got in an argument with these three guys. They ended up fighting. So if you know me, I am not a fighter at all. I don't think I've ever been in a fight. I tell my friends, if you start the fight, I don't have your back. But if someone starts a fight with you, I'll back you up. So it was funny. So what happened was my friend and just one guy of that group just started fighting. I mean, I was drunk. I look at the other two guys. And I'm just like, hey, well, cool, right? We're just going to let them fight. They're like, yeah, sure. So my friend just lays a punch on their friend, takes them down. I look around me, and the other two guys just start jumping on me and start punching me. But, I mean, it's Fullerton, so the cops pulled up within 30 to 60 seconds. And the crazy thing is they put me and my friend in jail, got a mugshot. I smiled in my mugshot, though. I asked them if I could smile. And then they let the other guys go. Come to find out, they were police cadets at the time, so they wanted to save face. So we just spent the night in jail. First thing I did when I went to jail, or when they locked us in the cell, was I started doing push-ups. It's pretty funny. Woke up, they let us out around 9 a.m., and I got to work at 10 a.m.
You're one of those people I used to fire. It's so funny.
But yeah, that's kind of like, I mean, those are just two stories, but I guess one other story, just to kind of give you guys a background, is I got it out of a DUI once. I don't know if you heard about that.
I learned a lot about you.
But I mean, I think it was my 22nd birthday or the day after. Got pulled over, and I guess this was just another way that, I mean, I always felt like I could get out of things. But I mean, I rolled down the window, of course, super polite to the cops. This was a time when I was trying to be a firefighter, so that's what I was telling them. And if you get a DUI, you cannot be a firefighter like the rest of your life. So that's all I was telling them. And he just kept asking how many beers you had. I was like, 1 beer, sir. He asked that probably for about 5 times. He's like, It's like, it really smells like alcohol in here. How many did you have? I was like, 1 32-ounce beer, sir. Pulls me out of the car. I just look at my friend. I was like, well, I'm going to jail. But we do all the sobriety tests. I passed them all. And then he's like, all right, just one more test, blow into this. He's like, you blew double the limit. I was like, okay. But he goes back to his buddy. They talk about it. He's like, we're going to give you a break tonight. Call your parents, have them pick you up. So it was just, I mean, now that wouldn't have been a big thing, but at the time, my life would have been over if that happened. Yeah. So that's just to give kind of listeners a background that's who I was. Those are the people I hung out with all the time. There was no growth at all. We lived for the weekend, which I think too many people do these days. And for me, when I started finding my passion, started loving what I do during the week, I didn't need to drink on the weekend. And it just kind of all came forward. So to answer your question, what kind of changed for me the last 6 years is just the way I live my life, the people I hang out with. I constantly look for people better than myself to become more like them and become around that circle. And then when I feel like I'm passing them up and they stop growing, I'll look for my next circle. And it's just a constant growing phase where every single day I'm trying to get better at something.
Yeah, that's good. That's good. And you said that you're going to become the average of the 5 people you hang around the most. And so once you realize you start becoming average, increase your circle. I like that.
Yeah.
Well, cool, man. Well, we're about to wrap this thing up. What kind of final things you want to share? Anything you want to, some good advice right there.
Yeah, I mean, that's just to give an example of kind of where I was, where I am now. And it's just exciting because I have a growing business. I'm starting another business, which, as you keep hearing me talk about, so my one passion is the fitness industry. And then my second passion is personal development, only because I saw how it has changed my life dramatically. And I know how it could change so many other people's lives. So now I'm adventuring into, I joined the John Maxwell team so I could speak about personal development, train people, do masterminds. And it's already exciting. I got my first mastermind. I have 2 groups completely full booked that are starting next week. I'm meeting new business people. So I'm meeting, again, just kind of creating a new circle. And it's just fun.
It's awesome. It's cool to be as your big brother. And I say that because you're a grown man, but watching just the growth over the years and things of that nature. And I'm excited for people to really get to know who you are and where you're at today and then where you're going tomorrow. Because the growth you've had in the last few years has been incredible. And just to think that to duplicate itself for the next few years, like where you'll be when you're 40 and 50 and 60. So it's cool, man. Learned a lot about you.
I bet. So much more too.
I know. I'm looking forward to it. Well, guys, I encourage you guys to find Luke Rangel on Instagram. What's your Instagram account?
Yeah, just check me out, LukeRangelFitness.com. Also the Instagram, just Luke Rangel Fitness. One thing I'm really excited about is I started a membership on my website. So it's only $10 a month, and people will do the exact same workouts I do every single day. There's going to be personalized videos in there, a whole membership platform. And then what I'm doing is I'm taking my John Maxwell personal development criteria and relating it to fitness. Because I believe there's so many fitness people out there that will show you how to work out, give you a meal plan, which is great. But with that, people still don't do it. I mean, we all know what to do, and yet we still don't do it. So my goal through this fitness is to bridge that gap and to change people's mindset instead of just changing their bodies.
Awesome. That's cool. I might have to sign up and become a member.
Yeah.
Hey, Kristen, we'll be on in a couple seconds. So wrapping it up, you can find us at PK Unmiked. That's Kristen Gray. She's part of our team member there. She's jumped on another meeting we have going on right now. YouTube, PK Unmiked. Instagram, PK Unmiked. But that's Luke and Josh. We're out.
Next week is you.
Let's go. Luke's going to be interviewing me. Good job, Luke. Love you, bro.
Love you too, Josh. Talk to you later.